Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Innovation Showcase Theater. My name's Toby, and I have the pleasure of being your host today. Now, we all know that to thrive in the new world of digital business, companies have to innovate at an unprecedented rate. So we're bringing you 11 sessions here at the Innovation Showcase, where we will share with you the latest solutions, service innovations, and best practices, which we know will inspire, inform, and engage you here at Cisco Live 2019. Now, today we'll be exploring the Internet of Things, and to tell us about it, I'm happy to introduce to you Cisco's Liz Centoni. But before we hear from Liz, we hope that you enjoy this short video.
The electricity is always there. We don't worry about it. We don't think about it. Never do we think about an attack on the power grid. It is like this all over the world. It is like this in Finland. Turku Energia supplies electricity for hundreds of thousands of people. Because its operations network was independent from IT, an attack could have found its way into the grid and no one would have known, until it was too late. By extending the IT network out to operations, Cisco was able to help secure the entire system, both now and in the future. And with Cisco IoT technology, the new virtually fail-proof system is as reliable as it is secure, one unified network. It's why tonight, in Turku, life will go on like it always has and always will.
Between on and always on, there's a bridge. Cisco, the bridge to possible.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. So let me give you a brief overview of what you're going to see in these next 40 minutes or so. So I'm going to cover a few highlights on IoT. We have our customer, Dr. Jürgen Tusch from Innogy, who's going to talk a little bit more in terms of what are the challenges and constraints that he sees in the utility space. And this is more often than not, you can expand into other industries as well. Then we're going to hand it off to Vikas and Albert, who are actually going to show you more than I did on main stage, because it's a limited time on main stage, on innovations that we're actually bringing to our IoT portfolio. And then Vikas is going to hand it over to Susie, who's going to give you some examples, like real examples, because we want to show you things that are not just marketing, it's not just on PowerPoint. These are real things that we're actually releasing that you can use today. All right? So here we go. So I know I talked about this earlier as well. For us, we've been in the IoT business for a long time. And it really is about enabling a customer's use case, right? We've been working with over 50,000 customers to deploy our entire portfolio of IoT to solve those real problems. Whether it's around increasing top line, whether it's around getting close to customers, whether it's around improving operations, improving processes, making things more efficient, bringing more yield, bringing security all the way down, for example, to the plant floor. So when you think about this in terms of, when everybody talks about the Internet of Things, it's like, I know I touched on this on main stage about, most often than not, it's really not, every one of us hears about autonomous cars. But what car companies want to do at the end of the day is they sell us a car. They want to sell more things to us after that, right? So how do you use IoT to really understand what customers want and be able to sell you and me more things after that car that we've already purchased? More and more, we're working with plants. Whether it's manufacturing cars, whether it's manufacturing cookies, everyone wants to know, how do I keep my production going 24/7? Security is a top of mind topic. So how do I do things like zones with things like network segmentation? These are active topics we're having every single day with our customers. And our deployment of 50,000 customers goes across all of these verticals, right? Whether you're in retail, healthcare, finance, whether you're in energy, oil and gas. our entire portfolio of investments that we've made actually help customers day in and day out with real problems across all of these industries, across multiple use cases. Even if a customer wants to start with a single use case, or a customer wants to start a multi-phase project with multiple use cases. We work with a whole ecosystem of partners to be able to do that, because in the IoT space, no person can actually do this no single company can actually do this by themselves. So there are top 3 challenges that customers talk to us all the time. Let me start with complexity. So the picture that actually you're seeing up there, that's the Port of Rotterdam. And by the way, if you haven't seen it yet, number 42, that is a tanker from the Port of Rotterdam. It's the red one right out there. We've been working with the Port of Rotterdam for quite some time. And I know you saw some of it in the video today. This is a 14th century port. And the aspiration of that port is to get to an autonomous port by 2030. So think about the complexity of connecting things in here. You have stuff that's been sitting there for a long time, probably from the 14th century as well. And then you've added new IP-connected devices as well, right? And we're looking at to be able to allow the port to connect this infrastructure, get more efficient as bringing those vessels in, moving them out, loading, unloading. That complexity is pretty significant. The next one is around scalability. In most environments in the enterprise, what are you managing? Probably 100 devices, 200 devices, 500. In the utility space, as we were working with Jürgen on this, we're talking about 60,000 substations that you may have a plan in the future to automate. So the scale of which we're talking about is 10x, 20x, what even we are used to actually seeing, because we focus more on use cases that sit inside the office space versus use cases that sit outside of the office space. The number one thing that comes up as the barrier to IoT deployments is security. CISOs, or chief security officers, actually cite that they feel like the biggest challenge of scaling from a proof of concept to a full deployment is in IoT. In IoT is security. Interesting kind of note, or data point. Only 25% of you actually feel that you know with confidence about the devices that are actually connected to the IT network. I want to let that sink for a little bit, because when we talk about connecting all these things, we've just expanded the threat surface. If the majority of it is you don't know what is actually connected to your IT network, how do you do things like device profiling? If you can't do things like device profiling, you can get to things like multi-layer segmentation. And actually later on, Vikas and Albert are going to talk about that as well, so do stick around for that. So before I go into a little bit of details on the rest of the portfolio, I want to invite up Dr. Jürgen Tusch, because we'd love to have a conversation around what are the challenges and constraints that happens in the utility space. So Jürgen, good to see you again. So I have to tell you that I've been to multiple data centers in my life, right? Pretty cool. I love going into this space. As much as I came from software, love the feel of hardware. I've never been into a substation. Actually, anyone here been in a substation before? Oh yeah, so you have a few people. I can tell you've never been in a substation. What is in a substation? Like we had all these pictures. I'm looking at these and, okay, I couldn't tell if you asked me to describe them.
Yeah, first of all, Liz, thanks for having me here today, and we can change this. So we will bring you into a substation, I promise. Yeah, well, substations, when we look at our environment, our assets, a substation is only the connecting elements in our energy system. So we've got overhead lines all over the country, and the substations connect these. And in the substations, we obviously have transformers, big transformers, which create a lot of electromagnetic field, which is not good for some equipment. So this is one requirement. And when you look into the control room of a substation, I would say it looks much like a small data center. So not so many 19-inch cabinets as in a data center, but there are several of them. So there are some similarities.
So is that what a control room is like that third picture?
No, we don't have it on this picture here, because this is a secondary substation. It's a very small one which you have in your neighborhood.
Okay. So when you think about this, right, I know you've educated our teams for the last 2.5 years after working. What are some of the main challenges that you see in your environment?
Yeah. Well, in Germany, we have this big endeavor called Energiewende, or energy transition. That means getting the CO2, the carbon footprint, out of the energy system, so make it basically carbon-free. We do this by replacing traditional power plants with renewables, predominantly wind and solar. And coming to solar, the good thing is everybody of you can participate. The only thing you have to do, put a solar panel on top of the roof of your house, and you are already producing energy on part of the system. Who of you has got a panel on roof of the house? One or some? Some. So there's room for more.
You have more customers.
There's room for more. Though the challenge comes right away, because the renewables, they have a fluctuating generating profile. So it's a lot of power flow dynamics in the grid. And in order to keep stability in the energy system, we have to keep the balance between generation and consumption. So we have to control the renewables in a way that they really, that we can keep the balance and the security of supply. And that's what we do with IoT technology, applying IoT technology to control the renewables.
So you said like your control center is almost like a data center, right? When I walk into a data center, it's big. But if you look at the compactness of the equipment that we showed, it's pretty tiny. So obviously there's a whole bunch of constraints that are different from a data center.
Absolutely. So typically we have got our telecommunication equipment in control cabinets. And there is limited space. So the dimensions of the kit is important. And so we are very happy that the IR systems have this compact space with a DIN rail mountain and these kind of things. And also, there may be environmental conditions with humidity, with electromagnetic interference capability. So this is also a very, very important aspect to have ruggedized equipment, because we said we need the kit to keep the renewables under control, to keep the stability in the energy grid. And so this is a very important message. And it's critical infrastructure, so to say.
So let's see, so power budget, space budget. On top of that, you want the modularity. So there's a whole bunch of constraints that you kind of work with in your environment. Now, you run kind of the digital transformation initiatives, right? There's a whole bunch of IT practitioners in this audience. And most often than not, when I talk to customers, you have the operation folks on one side, and you have IT on the other side. Now, a few companies are able to kind of work together, but in most companies, it's almost like there's an invisible wall in that. What would be your guidance for this audience in terms of, as they go and talk to their operational friends, right, in the line of business? What's your guidance to this audience on how to go out and enable kind of what you're doing in their own companies?
Yeah, that's a good question. And actually, there's a lot you can do from the IT domain, because typically the technology in IT is probably a decade ahead in what we use in OT. You were the first to use IP protocols. We are now using IP protocols in OT. And my advice would be there are a lot of good concepts in IT which we can transfer to the OT world. That's what we do. And that can be your mission, really, to bring value to the OT people with the knowledge you've got from the IT regarding technology solutions, but also processes and operational processes to keep the whole thing running.
Great. So I know every company is different. The culture of every company is different as well. So you definitely have the tools, IP knowledge, the security knowledge that you can bring over to your operational counterparts. Jürgen, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.
Appreciate you joining me again. All right, let's give him a hand. So in addition to what Jürgen talked about and what we're working with Innogy, I wanted to touch on a couple of 3 examples on where are we enabling customers to deliver kind of those end business outcomes. We work with a number of oil and gas companies. ExxonMobil is one example of that. The #1 use case that comes when you talk to a company in oil and gas is worker safety. And here's a good example as we go through the portfolio and we talk about data that you gather. This is where you have to have an infrastructure that's edge compute ready. So say there's a gas leak. You don't want to actually move that data all the way to your on-premises data center or cloud and then come back and say, hey, let's evacuate people in zone 3. But you want to be able to have an edge compute infrastructure that helps you make decisions to be able to evacuate people at that time, right? So the #1 thing, again, when we talk with customers is how do you enable me to do that employee safety? Another example of that is where in Switzerland, in the city of St. Gallen, we're actually working with Swisscom, who provides a managed service to the city of St. Gallen. The city has a very small IT organization, so actually Swisscom provides this as a managed service. The idea here is to be able to connect every single police vehicle in the city. And we do that today with our industrial portfolio and working with Swisscom. So a police officer can either be in the police station, actually be in a police car, do their work like they never left the police station. But on the other side, it actually also helps the operations dispatch team because we provide things like GPS tracking, geofencing. So say a police car is outside of the city of St. Gallen, quickly you can call them up and saying, hey, you're outside the city limits, need any help? Or maybe you need to get back to work. There's a couple of things that are happening over here. So there's a number of examples in terms of what we do with FANUC, where we've been working with FANUC in terms of predictive maintenance. They wanted to eliminate downtime. And working with them as part of their zero downtime solution, just in the automotive industry, they were able to save in excess of $200 million. So we're not talking about tiny amount in terms of what you can get to the bottom line. These are some pretty good, pretty significant savings to the bottom line. So where are the areas that we make our investment in? So this is a pretty standard stack. It's not something that we came up with. So you have your analytics and your applications at the top that want to be able to tie to your sensors and devices that are at the bottom of your stack. Cisco plays in the highlighted, kind of the dark blue areas around secure connectivity, providing that edge computing infrastructure where we now have a software platform in terms of where you can actually deploy your applications, whether you're building it, third-party ISVs are building it. The third one is around the data control and exchange. Increasingly, we're having the conversations with you guys in terms of what data to collect, what should I be able to use to be able to compute it at the edge? Should I take it to my on-premises data center? Should I move it to the cloud? This is, I would say, is still in a nascent stage. We continue to have this conversation as many of you are getting a lot more savvy about the fact that you want to have control over your information. So you have a robot maker in your manufacturing floor. You want them to be able to see only the data that's required to keep that robot running 24/7. You don't want them to know what else is happening in your operations because that is your own competitive differentiation. So I would say this is an area, watch for it. We'll continue to evolve, working with you as you decide what data, where do I want, what kind of business insights that you want. The fourth part is around IoT security, which we do across the entire stack, right from the connectivity layer all the way to the applications. So you'll see Vikas come up in a bit, and he'll talk about what we build here in terms of our market-leading portfolio on industrial networking. These are purpose-built routers, switches, wireless APs, firewalls that cover a breadth of connection as well as communication protocols. And we have the management and automation as well. Right now, all our portfolio is edge-enabled. Susie will talk a little bit more in terms of how we're helping gather some of that information, make sure it gets to the applications that are developed in your organization or ISVs as well. 2 years ago, we bought Jasper. It's a great platform for cellular connectivity. When we bought it, it had about 25 million connected devices on there, about 25 million cellular devices. Today, we have in excess of 110 million cellular devices connected onto that platform. About a third of those are actually sophisticated devices. We're talking about connected cars. So in excess of 30 million connected car devices sit on the Jasper or on a control center platform. We actually process almost, I would say, about 25 billion API events every single month. We have over 50 service providers as customers, and it's gone out to like 20,000 end customers. And the last part of the portfolio is around IoT security. So without much ado, let me actually hand it over to Vikas and to talk about what we're doing in terms of IoT innovations.
Thanks, Liz.
All right.
Super excited to be here. Wow, it's a packed space, huh, with all the people in the room and outside. So let's get started. I think you've heard quite a bit about where we are, but you are primarily an IT audience. So let me kind of talk about when we work with our customers. Many of you start out in the data center. Many of you start out by deploying in the branch office environment. But we know your businesses and your environments are a lot more than just those spaces. So we're going to talk a little bit about how when you get outside to a parking lot, how you get to a kiosk, how do you get to a distribution center, IoT technologies are super important because you need to be able to connect assets in these environments. Beyond that, you have areas like Dr. Tush just talked about, a cabinet on the side of a street. It could be a transportation system. It could be a utility system. It could be a kiosk. It could be a first responder, like in St. Gallen example. Beyond that, now you have the field area in an oil and gas field, in a utility environment, in a manufacturing environment. So what you really need to think about when we think about IoT is this extended enterprise, all the way from the campus in a branch office environment to the field area environment. And there is a connected tissue, there's an IP, and there's a network that runs across all of those things. So I know you've heard a lot about these new products. So at this point in time, I'm going to actually ask Albert to come up to the main stage and get ready to do a demo for us with these new set of technologies. Liz at the main stage talked about the 2 new products that we've just announced. So we've actually announced a Catalyst Industrial Ethernet industrial switches, and these products are built on the same technology as the Catalyst 9000. Same iOS XE, same software capabilities, same automation, same programmability and capabilities on the Catalyst IE 3000. I know the product managers are super excited in the front row here. And on the right-hand side, you have our Cisco Industrial Router 1100 series, which is also being used by customers like Dr. Tush for their connecting devices over a cellular network. Also leverages all of the technology in our ISR portfolio, including the pluggable module that Albert is going to talk to you about here in a second. So those are the 2 brand new product lines that we have announced today. And actually what's exciting about them, both of them are orderable and shipping now, right? So we've been shipping the IR 1100 since December, and the Petra is ready, IE 3000 is ready to ship here in the next couple weeks or so. So enough talking about it. Now let me turn it over to Albert. Albert, so we've been talking about flexibility. Can you talk a little bit to the audience about the IR 1100?
So let's talk about this. This is some of the innovation that we're bringing into the routing technology is that everything is getting smaller, and it's certainly happening with the routers, and we're going to get it with the switches as well. So this is from a flexibility perspective, this little router has a lot of connectivity. It's got Ethernet, it's got serial, it's got fiber. But one of the most flexible things we have is now this is actually your 4G LTE connection. And it's pluggable, so it just slides right in. So earlier, Dr. Tush was talking about they wanted to have an additional sort of private LTE. Well, you can use the same system, it's just a different module to come. And I also hear there's another technology, 5G, coming around. So if I've invested in the IR 1100 and now I want to transition from 4G to 5G, I'm just going to slip this one out and slip the next one in, and I've upgraded, right?
Come on, the engineering team, that's all you got to do, right? We'll be ready to go with that.
Just slip it in and slip it out. It's like PowerPoint. Awesome. It's easy. I can do anything in PowerPoint. But additionally, so if I actually want to have multiple LTE connections, for instance, so I can get an expansion module and stick it on there. So now I am not bound to, say, one service provider. So I can have one LTE connection for one service provider and a backup for another service provider. So providing a lot of flexibility in this respect.
And so in this case, this is a field replaceable, right? So you can start out with a base chassis and you can add on with some easy connection capability in the field, yeah?
So if the customer is trying to deploy these things out in the field, if they just need one, that's fine. If they want to have an expansion module, they can do that. But it's a protection, an investment protection, in that they can just purchase this system and then deploy it widely, and then however they need to use it, they can use it. So the other nice things about this is really low power. I mean, besides the fact that it's fanless and small, it's really low power, approximately 10 watts. So the innovation keeps happening, everywhere. And in terms of everybody wants less power, so we're bringing it here.
And this is an area when we've been working with our customers, they want to have battery backup that can last like 24 hours, 48 hours. So the power consumption makes a material difference in how long the battery power lasts. We're seeing a lot of solar-powered sites, and so if you're having a solar-powered site, the power you consume is really important, right? And Go ahead.
And I mean, I don't want to steal any of Susie's thunder, but supporting IOX.
That's
right. We'll be able to put applications on this as well out in the field for doing application development. So,
and I think on that point, so it runs iOS XE, right? So all of the work that our customers are doing and kind of using the APIs and all of that automation is now extensible to this product as well.
Correct.
Okay.
All right.
So that's our.
Want to hold it?
It's small enough that I know I can hold it too.
Okay,
Thanks,
sure.
Albert.
You can hold it. What's your
all right.
So the next one that we have that we're talking about is the next, the new industrial switches that we have.
Absolutely.
So this is the 3300 product line. So this is a very small, it's an all gigabit switch, very small and compact. It also will do PoE, and it brings a lot of flexibility as well. So we also have modulars for this. So we have, besides the fact that you can get PoE or non-PoE, you can also expand the number of ports, so it's quite expandable. So you just slip it on like this, and I just went from 10 ports to 18 ports.
Okay. So in this announcement, how many are we announcing? How many base chassis and expansion?
So we have actually 5 different base systems and 9 different modules.
Wow.
So again, from an investment perspective, if I have a deployment where I just need 18 or fewer ports, I can get this module. But if I need to get up to 26 ports, right, we have a 16-port module.
What all do you have back there, Albert? You keep pulling.
So we just snap it in. So quite flexible as well. So also running iOS XE, really low power. We're getting a lot smaller, fanless operation. So really important.
And that's important when you deploy in warehouses or other environments where you have dust or other kind of things, that fanless design allows you to run it for years, right?
So if you're in a situation where there's a lot of brake dust, this is your guy, right? No fans. Right?
That's awesome.
That's like,
all right. So you're proud about our, yes?
And iOS XE, don't forget about those key points.
Absolutely. And Susie's going to build on that here in a second as we come up. So great new products. We are super proud of them.
Yep.
But that's, let's talk a little bit more from an automation and how our customers can use the product as they go forward. So I think Liz talked about it on the main stage as Albert gets it ready. We support the products with DNA Center today, right?
Yes.
Both the products are supported in DNA Center. So I know what you're sharing with the audience. Maybe talk a little bit about that.
Okay, so when we talk about some of the scale that we wanted to talk about and easing operation, so with DNA Center, we've got the new products already integrated in terms of a management capability. So we just want to show real quick that, I've got a DNA Center inventory page here. So you can see we've got 9300s already. We got a 2K, and there's our 3300. We've got a 4K, and then we've also got our IR 1100. So DNA Center 1.2.8 already has support for management of these products. So we're working that in. And this comes with plug and play, software image management, topology, inventory, discovery. So from an operations perspective, DNA Center is covered, and we can scale it out in that respect.
That's right. And we talked about this at the keynote, like a single pane of glass, right? So if you're using ISRs or Catalyst 9Ks, now you can just add on these products into the same fabric of what they're doing in their environments. That's right?
Correct. Right.
Okay. Now maybe you can talk to us a little bit about security is a top of mind concern, Albert.
All right.
So maybe we can take an example of a location and talk to the customer.
Right. So we got a really small set of objects that are sitting here from an inventory perspective. And so the thing to look at is that we know what some of these device types are. There's a phone, there's a video surveillance camera, okay? But then some of them are unknown.
So in this case, just get everybody's attention on the right-hand side. You can see it's a parking lot location.
Right.
So it's one of those safety locations that might be in a parking lot.
So this would be an example where a network administrator had a project to provide more safety and security in a parking lot. They're going to put cameras, they're going to put an emergency phone, and they're going to power it all up through PoE and a switch. So there's going to be a cabinet in a parking lot out there somewhere, right?
Okay.
Right.
And so in this case, what I see is you have an IP phone, you have a surveillance camera, and you got these couple unknown devices.
And I got a couple unknown devices, but they're part of the security solution, right?
Okay, all right.
They're doing something, right?
Okay.
But you're a network administrator, like, okay, I don't know what they are, but so what can you do to sort of secure yourself?
And I think we talked about this, Liz talked about it, that what we've heard is about 25% of the time is when you know about all of the devices on your network. So these temperature sensors, HVAC, badge reader, all of these assets exist on your network.
Right, exactly.
Maybe we can talk to customers about how, if they were building an SDA network on a campus, how could they interact with it?
Right, so now we're going to sort of flip over to SDA and talk a little about the security solution from an SDA perspective. So if I had an SDA, so one of the things I do is so we're at headquarters and we got our SDA fabric. So I've got a number of virtual networks that I'm creating. So I'm going to, inside of SDA, I don't want to go into it too deeply, but you can create these virtual networks. And for the most part, I have my campus users, my IP phones, my users, people on laptops, IP phones and the such, and they can go to both directions. Right?
That's right.
So we're showing both directions. They get to the internet, and they get to the local data center, and they're talking only amongst themselves, right? They're in a virtual network, and they're segmented that way. But we've got also this stuff, too. We've got building management. So you talk badge readers and HVAC systems, and we put them in their own virtual network, and they're blocked from the internet, right?
Right. There's no reason for your badge reader or your things to be talking to the internet device, right? And it creates a surface area and a threat for the company.
And there's no reason for my badge reader to be talking to people on the campus network either, right?
That's right. Okay.
So we segment them that way. I mean, then I've also got contractors and guests that are coming in, and there's no reason for them to get to my local data center. We segment them off, and off they go to the internet. Okay, but then we got everything else, right? So this we're going to get back to our parking lot example. So now we've got this box sitting out in a parking lot somewhere, and it's not badge controlled. So access to my network is really outside of any sort of normal security access that we have. If I have a crowbar, I can get in, right? So what do I do there? So with the security solution we have in SDA is you just create a virtual network for it, and you segmented it off completely, and now I can just keep that only going to my local data center. So bringing this back to those devices that we had that were just random MAC addresses is now I'm just going to trust that the security solution guys will know what they're doing, and I'm going to put them in their own virtual network, and they can only talk to the local data center. So if there's any security issue there, I mean, it's really mitigated to just that virtual network and just that physical security system, right?
And what we find, by the way, is in many of your environments, you have these unknown devices. You can't authenticate the device. There's no 802.1x supplicants. These devices aren't secure. But if these devices are able to talk to anybody else and they get compromised, this is how botnets start, right? This is kind of the compromise that happened with video surveillance cameras and things like a couple of years ago. Right, that kind of brought down the internet on the East Coast as an example.
So we want to be able to say that if you're trying to deploy outside of your enterprise and you're using SDA, you can still do it securely using your own virtual network just for that, because that's outside of your security control. So you still want to support that and provide the connectivity without compromising on security for your normal business process.
That's right. So now I think this is an example of what we call intent-based networking, right? The marketing speak, and I know you have a better word for it. Go ahead, Albert.
Okay, I prefer policy, but policy, intent.
Yeah, so I think that in this case, the policy or the intent is that this virtual network can only go talk to the internal data center assets. They can't really go to the internet, right? And my PC can go do other things, or my guest network can do that. Okay, now so can you help the audience? How would you execute this? What would you have to do to kind of run this policy in their network?
So this is an example of what it would look like from a policy configuration page from a network administrator. And you see on the left, I've got my virtual networks. And so now if I want to implement a policy that says devices that are unauthenticated are only going to go into the IoT virtual network, I would just go over to here, and I would find my no authenticated devices, which I've defined in ICE, and just drag them over and press save. And I've just implemented the policy that says devices that don't authenticate and for which I don't know are now associated with my IoT virtual network and are subject to all the routing and policy and security solutions that I've enabled for that virtual network.
That's right. So when we talk about security in these IoT environments, clearly we'll work with utility customers. We're working with smart cities. We're working with the more complex environments. But from an enterprise IT point of view, this is an easy way for them to control these things that are on their network that are known or maybe unknown in some cases, as an example.
Right, exactly. So just define, it's easy enough to define a policy, right, and segment them off.
Okay, that's awesome. Hey, thanks, Albert. So I think you kind of took us through the hardware, the new products that we have launched. We talked about DNA Center, support exists with these new products, and now we are also being able to implement security in a relatively straightforward way that like even I can understand, right? So it kind of gets us in a head start there.
You're welcome.
So, thank you, Albert.
Sure.
So before I bring Susie up, let me kind of summarize a little bit. So what you heard from me really is the blue part of the picture, which is you have this world-class edge computing infrastructure capabilities available today within our IE3000 series of products and our IR series of products. So the world-class iOS XE, great hardware, great software with capabilities, but that's just the half of the story, right? Now what we've been working on is kind of bringing together this edge compute infrastructure and applications on top of it. And to do that, we're kind of bringing the DevNet and our ISVs and our partners to come up and make that happen. So with that, let me ask Susie to come up and kind of take us to the next chapter.
Thank you.
There you are, Susie. Thanks.
Thank you. Great job. Excellent. So this is an amazing portfolio, and everything that you've seen here is really exciting for networking. It makes IoT edge networking real. Now, in addition, the part that I'm really excited about that is, in addition to driving intent-based networking to the IoT edge, this opens up an opportunity to drive developer innovation to the IoT edge. Because there's a software layer. There's a software layer that can host applications, and developers can now innovate in this space. Oops, sorry. So let's just think about edge computing and think about the edge computing applications. This is not a new word or a new term in the industry. It's been around forever. But it hasn't really become real, especially in these industrial areas. So if we take a look at these different verticals and say, why do we need edge computing in these areas? In manufacturing, we have really mission-critical operations that are going on all the time. You're processing data, you're moving real workloads. You have low latency, high performance requirements in these environments. So that's not a time that you want to take all of that data, send it up to the cloud to make a decision and come back. You need to make real-time decisions, and that's an opportunity for edge computing. If you take a look at the area of retail, in retail you have stores. So you just have geographically distributed physical locations. You might have customer and store data that's up in the data center or up in private and public clouds, but also within the store itself, you have point-of-sale devices, RFID readers, wireless systems that can tell you where customers are. That's an edge, and there's a lot of edge processing that we can do to innovate there in the store itself. If we take a look at utilities, as Dr. Tush just talked about, we have substations and we have areas where we're actually interfacing with brownfield equipment, with analog equipment and physical systems. And as those get digitized and we need to process and optimize what we're doing there, it's another opportunity for edge computing and applications at the edge. And let's think about transportation in cities. Here you have roadways, ports, things that are getting instrumented, but in addition you have police cars, ambulances, moving vehicles, trains, and these are very mobile and physically distributed infrastructures that can also benefit from edge computing. And what I'm excited about is thinking about all these industries and thinking about what can happen if you actually let applications come into this place and developers who are writing applications for these different utilities to come into these environments. So let's take a look at transportation in cities. And specifically, Liz had just talked about St. Gallen and what Swisscom has done for the police officers there. And I just want to dig in a little bit deeper. So if you think about that police officer, right? The police officer is in their police car. The police car is an edge environment. It's a car that's moving, it's mobile. It has one of these beautiful gateways in it, and these new ones are going to be in there next. And what happens is that's the police officer's office. So you have a dashboard camera, it has a Wi-Fi hotspot, there's a laptop computer that's in there, so it does a lot of processing. So that's each an edge device that has a gateway. And then if you think about all of the police cars that are moving around, those need to be kind of managed with a gateway manager. And in addition to the hardware, we have the software. So we have our gateway manager in Cisco Kinetic that can provide some cloud gateway management. And on each of the edge routers themselves, we have IOX, which means that they can actually host applications. And then if we dig in a little bit deeper, what happens is, let's think about what the gateway manager has to do. The gateway manager kind of has two duties. It can, first of all, have abilities to programmatically manage those devices. And you saw some great examples of that earlier that Albert showed. In addition to managing the devices, it also needs to now deploy applications and containers to the edge and manage the applications running with them. And so it has both of these capabilities in our gateway managers. And then on the device itself, they have the capabilities to actually host those applications. So they need application and container management as well. And just to quickly show you and give you a flavor of the APIs, so in the Kinetic Gateway Manager, then there's things like device management APIs so that you can integrate these into the workflows. So if you think that all of the police cars have a number of gateways, there might be somebody in charge of operating those. All of the buses or ambulances may have another owner for them. So you can actually put users into groups who can then claim gateways and manage those using these different APIs. So it lets you access that. And then for the application management side, you can do things like manage these applications, deploy the applications to the edge, start them, run them, close them when you need to. So this is the other part of what can come together. So this is really an exciting capability that really brings developers' innovation to the edge. Now really the key is then, how do we teach people to use all of these things? And together with Liz and Vikas and the team, what we are launching here is a new DevNet IoT Developer Center. It's at developer.cisco.com/IoT. And we've been creating there, enlisting the use cases and the capabilities, providing the developer documentation and the tooling so that anybody who wants to start building these solutions today can start doing them. So you can get in there now, whether you're on the IT or the OT side, whether you're a customer or you're a partner who deploys these, or an ISV writing apps, you can go here to get the resources that you need. And in there, what you'll find are learning labs. So we have DevNet IoT learning labs that will teach you about the different APIs, the different capabilities that you can get hands-on right away. And in addition, we have this a DevNet sandbox, which is, you might not have one of these yet in your home or in your work office, but if you want to start using the APIs and using the products, we actually have them in a DevNet sandbox in the cloud. You can make a reservation and actually start using these to get familiar. And it's really interesting because what we're finding is, you don't always have a network to play with in the utility industry or a police car and some of these edge environments, but you can actually use the DevNet sandbox to get folks trained up and familiar in using it, and then go ahead and deploy it when you're ready. And next, the last part that I would like to say is that we have something called DevNet Exchange. So when you come about and you're starting to build these solutions, then what you want to do is you want to have code that you can just use. So it's one of these things to get these things ready, and we have both DevNet Code Exchange, where you can get free source code that already has a system running and has some solutions built that you can then just modify. In addition, we have Ecosystem Exchange if you're ready for products, and what we have are our partners' products, and especially ISV products that can actually be used in your settings today. I'm showing 3 new IoT solutions that we've just brought into DevNet Exchange. We have SimCom, which is a solution for lighting. And so as you're getting into lighting, into streets and everything there, then they have an ISV that has applications that can work in these environments. We have Aliantra, which is in the manufacturing industry. So as you're taking a look at these industrial devices and work that you need to do in manufacturing, this is a solution that you can actually buy today, working on top of these platforms. And in the utilities industry, we have Eximprod. And XMProd has a number of software solutions for virtual RTUs, and it's available here, and it can be used, again, on these environments. So this just shows that the new type of innovation that we can do involves both developers, the network innovation, and the application innovation that can come together. So we're very excited about this and working together with Liz and having these offerings. And now she's going to bring this together for us for the close.
Thanks, Susie.
Thank you, Liz.
All right. So as you saw, we have the portfolio, we have the validated designs, which we didn't really talk about as much, but think about it as blueprints to enable you to scale, the ability to enable your developers and ISVs, and we're also training our channel ecosystem partners because we want them to help you get your implementation successful. So here's our ask of you. Visit us in the world of solutions over there. All of this equipment actually sits over there right now. It's pretty cool. Meet our engineers. There's a large part of our engineering team here. Meet our engineers, executives, ask the questions. There's a number of breakout sessions, about 18 breakout sessions. I would highly encourage you to go there. And then definitely go to the DevNet zone and explore kind of what the new IoT Developer Center is all about. I want to thank you. Thank you for giving us the time to take you through this. Thank you as always for your business, and enjoy the rest of Cisco Live. Thank you.
Another big thank you to Liz Santoni and all of our speakers here today, and thank you.
There you go, another amazing innovation showcase, this time talking about IoT. How are we connecting the world's devices, creating true mobile interaction so anybody can do anything from anywhere and making sure that all apps are doing exactly what they need to do for your organization. Great innovation showcase with Liz Santoni, the amazing Susie Wee, one of my favorite people here at the show, heading up our powerhouse at Cisco Developer Network. A lot of IoT use cases. I want to keep talking IoT right now, and fortunately right here in the studio with me, I've got the exact person to be able to do it with me here. So we're going to turn the cameras over. I'm going to shift even a little closer to you. Samuel Pasquier. Samuel is our Director of Product Management here. Oh, we're going over here, great. Director of Product Management here in Cisco, and I'm so glad to have you with me here today. It's been an amazing conversation about IoT since the beginning of the kickoff here with David Geckler. Let's talk first of all, how do people get started with IoT and with us here at Cisco?
Yeah, thank you, Steve. IoT is all about having the data to be able to transform the business. Right? Your customer want to grow their business, they want to optimize their process, they want to have a better quality and customer experience for their customer. But to be able to do that, you need the data. And how do you get the data? Well, you need to connect things. You need to connect things, be able to extract the data, to do something smart about it, right?
And security as well. It's not just about connecting that data, it's making sure that it's secure as it's connected.
Well, that's exactly true, because when you're connecting the data, when you're in the office space, it's very, I would say, secure in the sense like the physical infrastructure is secure. But when you are, like in the video this morning, you're an arbor, you're a factory, you are a utility, it's across a country, across the states, across a full region. Mm-hmm. Well, security now, it has the notion of physical security. How are you going to secure your device? How are you going to make sure that no one is tampering with your device? So obviously there's security of the device, but security of the network, security of the application, it's very critical information that we need to carry.
Absolutely, and the other interesting aspect as people are getting started with IoT is the concept of containerization. If we're binning it properly, that data has to be accessible and usable within the moment. We can't wait until it's set into the container, we go back and get it. They need to use that data right away, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what our customers do. Actually, they connect, they put their device next to the machine or the asset generating the data. They can transform it, translate it, and take reaction, react to the data very, very quickly. So that's why we build this capability in our product.
It's great. So we're here, we're in Barcelona, in this stunning city, and this magnificent show and all this energy around us. Let's talk about what is new here at the event. So not just what people here will see, but those of us tuning in online will see.
Yeah, sure. So it's a big launch for us for IoT. We are heavily investing in the IoT business. And for us, we realize IoT is not only about product. It's really about blueprint, because our customer needs solutions, they need help to be able to deploy your solution. So the major thing of our launch is obviously 3 new blueprints to help our customer, from manufacturing, what we call industrial automation, to distribution automation for utilities and remote and mobile assets. So we have those blueprints where we do testing, we do security best practice, we work with partners to do that, as well as product to implement all those different solutions. So on the product side, you may have heard with Liz this morning in the keynote, it's all about switching. So we have a brand new line of ruggedized switching. First time that we have a Catalyst ruggedized portfolio. and built on iOS 6E. At the same time, if we do it with Catalyst, we'll do it with ISR.
Absolutely.
So we have a routing platform as well, built on top of iOS 6E, same feature set, same management tool for our customer.
And Liz was doing such a good job this morning of giving us the holistic view of the approach to IoT, because it's not just structure independent. We're not just talking about the network or about equipment. We're talking about going beyond just the software delivery model for IoT and making it extensible throughout the entire infrastructure.
Yeah, and that's really what it is. Our customers need to deploy this connectivity beyond the office space. And what they want is, when they do that, they realize the complexity of doing so. So they want to really have the same way of managing the network, the same way of implementing the security policy across. They want to have one single pane of view to be able to do that. And luckily, we've been managed by DNA Center, so the same tools that they have used to, the same concept of intent-based networking is implementable and usable on our product and on the IoT edge now.
And you just hit on such an important topic there. Another thing we heard from David Geckler right out of the gate at the keynote this morning, simplify, simplify, simplify. How do we take the complexity out of IoT envelopment within a company? How do we get them to adopt IoT faster with more confidence and know that they're not going to get stymied in the process?
That's an awesome question, because the reality, if when you want to deploy networking at the edge, the guy who's going to go and deploy the product is the guy who knows how to use the hammer.
Oh, yeah.
He may not know how to configure networking. So it's all about automation. It's all about IT being empowered to implement the configuration, configure the system, but with automation. So the guy in the field can go and plug the box, automatically call home, and get the right configuration, and everything is automated. And that's really what it is about, is how we need complexity of the technology, because it's complex problems that we are solving, but we need to simplify that for the end user, so you don't see the complexity, you don't feel the complexity, you feel it's easy to use, and it's secure.
Great. So we talked about first steps. In terms of how these new industrial IoT platforms are benefiting our customers, can you give me one or two great use case examples of how they are really growing with our Cisco support?
Yeah, so we have a lot of use cases, and you're going to get some customer later on, but one of the big use cases around utilities. The grid are transforming, and they want to connect the grid all across the different country. So obviously it's a big use case for us. We have a lot of customers. You're going to get into this later on today. We have energy this morning in the keynote, so that's a big use case, but that's really industrial driven. So sometimes, IT customers are like, well, industrial, that's not me.
Right.
But what we realize is every customer we talk to, they deliver a product, they build a product, they deliver services. And what do? They have a warehouse, they have a fleet of vehicles to deliver their product. So they need to extend connectivity beyond the office space. And IoT, it's also about that. It's not only about industrial use cases, it's about those use cases where your customer, that you, the simple, I would say, IT guy in the company, can go and provide useful connectivity to influence your business, right?
Fantastic, really exciting. Last thing I want to ask you, if people want to learn more about what's going on in Cisco and IoT, what do they do?
Well, cisco.com/go/IoT, or the World of Solution. We have amazing product and amazing display.
Right over that way. Samuel, I wish we could talk for another half an hour. Thank you so much for your time. Samuel Pasquier, everybody, and in fact, we are going to continue the conversation over in IoT in the WAS. My buddy Aigerim is out there in the WAS taking a look at these new IoT platforms and what it is they're bringing to the market. They are launching here at Cisco Live. Aigerim, are you ready to roll?
Thank you, Steve. I'm here at World of Solutions at the IoT booth together with Tim Seghetti. Hi, Tim.
Hi, Miriam. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. So Tim is a principal engineer for IoT business, and he joined IoT team recently from the software-defined architecture team. Well, glad to have you here. Tim, could you tell me more? What are the top challenges that our customers face in IoT?
Absolutely. So the three biggest challenges are flexibility. There's so many different use cases in IoT, from manufacturing to transportation to building systems and so on and so forth. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. The second biggest challenge is scalability. We have tens of billions of devices coming online every year. You need to find a way to manage those simply, effectively, and securely. And that's actually even the third challenge, is security. We hear sometimes in the news of companies getting hacked through their IoT devices, like Target, who lost the customer data of 110 million customers through an attack that came through their heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems. Or, for instance, last year, a North American casino got hacked through a thermometer that was in the fish tank in their front lobby. So with a greatly expanded threat vector, companies, these are the biggest challenges: scalability, flexibility, and security.
Yes, I can totally relate to that. So a lot of my customers are in industrial space, right, such as container terminals in the Netherlands. And this sounds spot on. Thank you. Well, tell us more about the new IoT platforms that were announced.
Very good. I'm happy to. So these new platforms are IE3000 series switches and our IR1101 rugged ISR routers meet all of these challenges. For instance, let me talk to you first about flexibility. Well, we have flexibility based on the rugged design. So these can go pretty much anywhere. For instance, they could be monitoring oil fields in the extreme north where regular catalyst switches wouldn't even boot up. A regular switch won't boot up if it's below 0 or freezing. But these can go all the way down to -40, or they could tolerate extreme heat. Like they could be placed on anywhere in the planet up to, plus 60 degrees Celsius. So any location in the world, these can function. They're ruggedized, they can take shock, so they can be on manufacturing floors, any place like that. So we have tremendous flexibility there. We have flexibility in hardware. Like say we need a use case where we need more Ethernet ports, whether they're regular or PoE ports, we just expand these modules. We can go up to 16 if we want, or we can even add some combinations of copper and fiber ports as we need on demand. And so we have tremendous flexibility built into the platforms themselves. Let's take a look at the router. Same idea. Right now, for instance, majority of our devices, if they're connecting over long-range wireless, are doing over 3G or 4G. Well, 5G is right around the corner. When it's time to upgrade, we just do a swappable module and we expand on that. Or if you want redundant solutions, we can just add an expansion pack on top, and now we have dual 3G, 4G, 5G, and they could be giving you radio redundancy or carrier redundancy. Could be one connected to one SP and then another SP, depending on their coverage ranges, and then you got all sorts of options available to you. Extremely low power as well. This takes about 10 watts, which is like 1/10 of a regular light bulb.
Wow, this sounds great. Sounds like we've got some real powerful devices, and I love the flexibility, right? That's exactly what you were mentioning. So Tim, how about segmentation? Because like, for example, for my customers, say take a container terminal, right? They are scared of getting hacked because obviously there are so many entrances, and they are so kind of very cautious with their security and infrastructure. So what do we do in terms of segmentation?
Yeah, absolutely. So these devices, they run iOS XE, just like your other Cisco routers and Cisco switches, which means they have the same programmable interfaces and same capabilities. For example, with our industrial Ethernet switches that we're featuring here, they are SDA ready, software-defined access ready. So we can basically segment them with DNA Center as easily with an intent-based policy as simply as dragging and dropping that says, okay, I'm going to put my IoT devices like HVAC systems or security cameras or badge readers or anything like that in an isolated network, a virtual network, and this simple step alone would have prevented those attacks that I mentioned, like Target or that casino. Very simple, easy to use. You can see drag and drop, very simple to operate UI, and a single pane of glass for your carpeted enterprise and your extended enterprise.
Nice. Thank you, Tim. This is really great. Great to hear that we integrate the industrial devices into the SDA platform, right? I think the software-defined access means a lot for our industrial business. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
And now back to the studio.
All right, thanks so much, Agrim. Appreciate it. Great conversation. Glad to be getting more and more and more about IoT, a big part of the talk here in Barcelona. We're going to continue that IoT conversation right now. And I've got two fantastic customers here with us who are going to talk about their own experiences with the Cisco IoT platform. Let me briefly introduce on this side, Gael Sitzia, CEO of MG Solar, and back over here, Emmanuel Velalta, Head of Network Access in the Telecom Department at Enedis. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Glad to have the time here with you. So we're going to get personal with each of these companies because we really want to know how you are putting IoT to work for your organization. So I'll sort of go one by one here, but really I want this to be more of a group conversation. Let's start with how you have deployed Cisco's new industrial IoT platform. And Gael, let's start over here on this side with you.
Well, at MG Solar, we are constructing and deploying solar farms through the world, so we need to address globally some specific solar farms and be able to control and command this energy production.
And is this the type of demand that came from your customer base? Was it an industry matter of being able to make sure that you were staying in play and staying effective within the industry? What sort of drove your decision to begin incorporating these capabilities?
Well, we essentially it was to securize our network and be able to have anybody around the world being able to connect directly to the solar farms. And that's why we needed Cisco help to redefine the industrial architecture of our solar farms.
That's great. And I want to come back to you in a couple of moments and talk more about how the customers are using that particular capability. So, Emmanuel, let's come over to you and ask the same question with regards to what Enedis is doing and why you brought Cisco IoT capabilities on board.
So yes, Enedis is the main DSO in France, the main distribution system operator in France. So we manage the grid, 95% of the grid in France. And so we have a lot of customers, but we have more and more customers which are actually producers, like Engie, for instance. So they generate electricity and they inject it into the grid. And we need more and more data to know what exactly happens on the grid so that the grid becomes smart. You know, the smart grid, we all want to achieve that. And we realized that we needed more and more IP devices on many places on the grid, on generation facilities, for instance, which are connected to the grid, to know what really happens in real time. And all the, yes, we have very important energy nodes, and we have to put communication nodes on these energy nodes to know exactly how many kilowatts and so on, and what really happens on the grid.
So is it being able to extend the IP into areas that we were never able to do it before that has allowed us to take that data, use it in real time in the most effective fashion?
Mm-hmm. Yes, because you know, actually it's, we are in the middle of a change. We used to use only all the legacy devices. We were quite happy with PSTN. Okay. But when you want something always on and you want new data updated every 10 minutes, you have to completely give up these old and obsolete devices. So we have, and all the new generation are IP native devices, and we were looking for the best routers, IP routers, to have this interface, this communication interface between the business devices and the IT and the data collection and the monitoring. Monitoring is very important. So that's why for this first step, we are deploying the first Cisco routers.
It's exciting stuff. And actually, you came to exactly where I wanted to go with Gael next, is the why Cisco question. So I assume a lot of what Emmanuel is talking about is sounding very familiar in terms of moving away from the legacy history, which is sometimes very hard to let go of. But when we have these capabilities available, how do you go about onboarding, and why do you onboard utilizing the Cisco product?
Basically, it's to solve an issue that we have. We have to stabilize at one point the power grid, and we have to do it in real time, and we have to securize everything. So all those topics can be addressed using an industrial networking that basically is available by definition by the Cisco products, and all those services that basically Cisco address usually for all the customers. We were able to deploy it on solar farms. So basically, the issue that we have, basically to be able to control command all the solar farms, we need to do that in real time to be able to securize all the data and ensure that nobody will tamper it with. Other than that, we'll have some problem with productivity issues, but that means, you know, like less power for some part of the world. So,
tell me about what the payoff is for the customer. What is the customer experience? They don't see all of the paddling that happens under the water. They get the end result. What is that result for them?
As far as our customers are really industrial customers, so the one that operates. That basically, if I don't have a phone call saying, you know, I don't see my power farm anymore, my solar farm anymore, I'm happy. And that's basically what we have now. So basically, the final customer, the one that operates and do the maintenance of the solar farms, is able to generate more power, of course, but don't have any latency or some disturbance in the operation of the solar farms.
And you know what, Emmanuel, let me ask you the same question. What is the COE? What is the customer use experience on this? What do they get in terms of a benefit about you incorporating all of these new IoT platform capabilities?
Well, there are different levels according to the customer. For instance, for a customer like like NG, the producer, a generator, we used to need to build a line, a copper line, to have a PSTN going to the solar or to the wind farm. So it was complicated, it was expensive. Now with the cellular router, in most cases we have a signal, so we just come with the device, we put the router with the SIM card, and it's on. So it's a painless, almost painless. And then they know that with this data, which are collected very frequently, we can offer new ways and quicker ways also to connect electrically to the grid. Sometimes we can offer new ways. We don't have to build large substations, kilometers of lines, and it allows us to have a very quicker and painless experience for customers like my neighbor. Hopefully.
Right? It's an ecosystem. We all cooperate with one another. In case we don't say it often enough, we are so grateful to have you aboard with Cisco and to have you be a part of the Cisco family here, and I'm glad that it's worked out so well, and we look forward to a future of a great deal more of it. So Gael, Emmanuel, thank you so much for the time here, for stopping by the studio. We're really glad to be involved with you here.
Thank you.
And we're going to toss it back out to the IoT booth over in the World of Solutions, and my good buddy Rob Boyd. How are you, Mr. Boyd?
Man, I'm doing fantastic, Steve. Thank you so much for asking, and I just want to thank our audience for joining us out here through the magic of real-time video technology. We are live and nationwide, actually much more than nationwide. We're international at this point. We are deep into the Cisco showcase. If you come all the way down at the end of the World of Solutions, we're all the way down at the end, almost to my hotel room. Frankly enough, unfortunately, it's not an exit over here, so it's still a long walk as we get over there. But specifically, we're in an area that has grown every single year. You can probably guess where I'm going next, because we've been talking about it all segment. We're in IoT. And when I think IoT, I think Richard Mullins. I want to introduce Richard for those who may not know who you are, although I doubt that.
Good to see you. How are you?
Good to see you as well, man. You guys have grown so much.
We have. You can see we're growing the products even as we speak, right here on the pedestals.
Well, this is funny, because this thing is a little bit unnaturally large. It'll eventually make it, oh, you can force it around. Look at that thing.
So we are going huge form factor now with our products.
Yeah, so why don't you explain what this is, because that's not real life size, although I like that.
Yes, actually, this is a real product that we've got right here. So what we're being talking about is, both in our keynote and what Liz and Vikas talked about today, is extending out these use cases out to the edge, so the Internet of Things. And when you think about your kind of network core, when you're using DNA Center, when you're using Catalyst, now we have the way of bringing in the parking lot, the port, the airport tarmac. We can bring that into the control plane, and we're showing those use cases on the booth. So come visit us. We'll show you all of the, right here I have a new router that we're bringing to market. And
get down here and look at this. Get down here and look at this router here for a second.
Yeah, so key thing we've been hearing about from our customers is, I want to install this, but as, for example, when I'm maybe moving from 3G, 4G, LTE, 5G, I don't want to have to go replace a router. What I want to do is be able to put this, like, for example, in a kiosk, and then as my needs change as far as backhaul, I just pull these modules out, and then I can just change the module from 3G to 4G to LTE. And there it is right there. And so you just take this out, replace this, and then I don't have to take this out of the DINREL mount. So I've got this like on a upstream on a oil field pump. I might have it in a traffic controller box at an intersection. I might have it inside of a kiosk at a fast food restaurant, right? And now the hardware stays, we just upgrade the network with whatever the capabilities, and we can also run IOX XE on these devices. So now we've got the ability of running applications at the edge. We install this, we can have a suite where we can cloud manage this, we can run VPN off of this, and then we're beginning to backhaul data into the data architecture that we've been talking about from the network core. So data center, tent-based networking, the ability to compute anywhere.
Well, I tell you what, I wonder, I'm going to just ask our cameraman here to just kind of pan around a little bit, nothing specific, but just look at how massive, if you look around here, can you explain a little bit about what we're seeing? What all can we be doing in this booth area?
Right, so it's about these products that I was just showing, but then we want to show the products and the use cases. So you come see us, We've got manufacturing, utilities, oil and gas, rail, roadways, cities, different types of parking lot or extended enterprise use cases that Tim just talked about. We take the products and then we install them into those types of areas. And the idea is it's very important for us to show for the guest, you're using this product in this location to do these sorts of functions. And we're always triangulating back to three themes around network control, security totally at the edge of your operational control plane, and then finally compute, because really what we're running is a massive distributed compute environment, from the edge all the way up into the data center, private cloud, public cloud environment. So everything that's around us in the showcase, we use in these basically cloud to ground stories that we're telling that are all about enablement.
So really see it in action here, so we get the really good idea of exactly how far these things go. But what I heard you saying is most important, these are not islands of technology any longer. The same network fabric and the same operation, the same code level base gets extended well outside the carpeted environment.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we're now continuing to provide the customer with a single network control plane, compute plane, from our software capabilities that we got, SD-WAN, SD-Access, and then being able to manage these products in these environments.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so obviously we want everybody to come check this out. Just as a final point, where can anyone go that doesn't get a chance? Of course, I think coming here and getting hands-on is the ideal. Right. We have a large audience watching us right now that are saying, oh, I wish I could be there, maybe next year, but there's probably some stuff we could do online for education, for learning, that type of thing. And yeah,
we can bring Internet of Things to you right now. All you need to do is just go click on Cisco.com. We had a great launch this morning that we did with David in the keynote, and then Liz, we had just another session here. Got all that great launch collateral that I just talked about online, so we can walk you through these stories, both the products, these use cases, and then in these industry capacities, and drive you into a lot of the validated designs we have of exactly how to design these elements up. They're all based against use cases, like I want to monitor machines and things like that. So go online, Cisco.com, you'll see us in the mastheads, or select us as one of the business units. So you'd see enterprise networking, you should see IoT or Internet of Things. Click on that, and then we'll take you all into our great content that we just refreshed and put up this morning. So you'll be among the first to see it.
Yeah, so if you've already been there before, and you're like, oh, I've already seen their stuff. No, you haven't, because it just got up. A lot of good stuff. Richard, thank you so much. Appreciate you. Absolutely. Steve, hello back at Steve, he says hello back to you in the studio, but here from the IoT floor, back in the Cisco showcase. You got to come check it out. Come say hi to Richard when you come through. See you back.
Absolutely, Rob. Thank you so much, and thanks to Richard Mullen. You know, Richard and Scott Newman, they are kind of the driving force behind this IoT story over in the Cisco Showcase. It's a phenomenal collection of how we are connecting all aspects of the world, so thank you guys. I want to continue, I want to dive even deeper into IoT. We're going to look at a customer here and talk about industrial deployments of IoT. I've got Sabine Posey here with me, General Manager of Eximprod Group. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on the set.
Thank you for inviting us here in Cisco Live in Barcelona, and especially on this set.
It's kind of fun to have the dynamic all around us here as we talk, right?
Yeah, everyone is moving, everything is happening, and we are sitting here and talking.
It's just the two of us. We're totally good. All right, so first thing I want you to do is kind of introduce us as what's going on with Eximprod, what it is that you're all about, and what you are doing with IoT today and with Cisco.
Okay. Some years ago, as we graduated from computer science, we were 4 buddies, and we received a wild card to start a new business for software development and automation in utilities. Utilities is a tough area, conservative people, so after a few years, we understood what are their challenges. So we realized that we need to change how they are thinking, to change networking, and to change the operational area, where is their core business. Operations in utilities have not changed for years. So we wanted to bring the best out of IT and to replicate it there. So that's how we came up with the idea to create a product, a virtual RTU, a software that would replace a box and will do its job better and more efficient.
So then what does IoT do to take that to the next step? So you now have this capability, you know what it is that you want to accomplish, but you dive in and now you need new industrial applications. How does Cisco begin to help support you in that next step?
Cisco, with its infrastructure and its DevNet platforms and all the tools that has converted the router to an edge computing device, allowed us to focus on what we do best. So, we were lazy. We didn't want to take care of security, complexity, software deployment. It's a lot of stuff which we don't want to lose our interest and our focus in doing that. So we use the Cisco infrastructure for all these simple things, and we focus on what we do best. And we focus on innovation, and we focus on changing the way the utilities go and they work. And this is due to the fact that utilities work in a very restricted environment, and for them it's very difficult to innovate. Cisco helps us by providing us all the necessary tools so that we can deploy scale-up projects, or changing from a simple POC to a full-scale project. It's quite easy.
So in terms of that expansiveness, what does it mean for the industry? How does the industry get the payoff from what it is that you're able to do now?
Well, our customers have loved the experience of these solutions in partnership, Cisco and Eximpro together, because it offers them the opportunity to have a future-proof solution. Basically, we can provide them a solution that they can test before they use. They can try it in a lab, in a sandbox, without having any investment to do in a laboratory device, in a laboratory set. So that helps the customer appreciate the solution. Also, by separating the software functions from the hardware function, basically we turn the hardware into a platform. We bring virtualization into the OT. So the customer can replace the software, replace the hardware, upgrade it. If something new happens, he needs something new, he can just use the same platform and put a new application. Similar to a data center, but on a small device at the edge, like the one that Richard just showed.
I love that, because this is the power of choice being handed to the customer. We're not making them make the choice between whether they're going the software service route or the hardware route. They choose what's right for them, and they scale according to their customer, right?
Exactly. The customer knows better what suits for them in the IoT environment. IoT doesn't seem similar from one customer to another. Each has its individual needs, its own needs. So you need to allow the customer to make a choice. So these platforms allow the customer to buy a solution which is already done, to develop its own solution, or to find a partner, an ISV, and develop with him the solution he needs.
It's perfect. Let's kind of do a little future vision. Let's gaze into our crystal ball and let's figure out what's going to happen maybe a year or so down the line right now. How do you think we are going to see the future of these Cisco IoT industrial applications and how they benefit the entire marketplace?
I think Cisco IoT developments are just starting up. Until now, there were use cases just to show the potential. Now we see actual businesses. Utilities is a conservative business, like I said, and they are moving towards IoT. They are moving towards software industries. And utility is one of the vectors for IoT because they are facing a digital transformation. It's something that is due to happen, must happen. They need to integrate renewables. They need to face e-mobility. They need to face storage, prosumers. A lot of changes. This forces the utility to be agile, to be able to use technologies that today are not invented, but they should be able to use them tomorrow. So that creates the need for a platform on the edge.
It's so great because the customer is helping to drive the industry. We are being responsive. We're working with great partners like you to be able to deliver exactly what the marketplace is demanding from us. And it starts at an event like this. We get ideas, we share, we have great conversations. What needs to take place? And then how do we create that capability for the marketplace? What do you hear from customers in terms of what they want to hear from you next at your company?
Our customers are excited about this new developments. They would like to see more solutions. They would like to see more partners because this allows them to choose. They want to have the power of choice. So I think that this is what is the secret behind all these people here. It creates an ecosystem of partners which can provide a reliable solution for the customer, for the end user.
It's great. Again, it is about community, it's about connecting, it's about putting people in the room and having great conversations like we've just had right now. So Sabine, thank you. If people want to learn a little bit more about XCOM, where do they go?
First of all, they could go to our website, epg.ro, and also they should look up on the sandboxes of DevNet and DevNet Exchange. We just launched a new DevNet lab. They can test the solution, they can play with it, and they can connect actual assets to the IoT world. They can digitize assets.
Sounds so good. Pleasure to talk with you. Thank you for taking the time in the studio. Really glad to have you with us. Congratulations on all the great successes. And thanks to all of you for tuning in. We're going to cut away for just a couple of moments. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.